What's going on, y'all? So today's guest is not only a friend of my dad's, he's also a bluegrass musician. So if you never heard bluegrass before, you should check him out. He's also a bass player for the McCoury band and the Travelin McCourys. So if you don't listen to bluegrass music, you could go and check out a song or two. And I believe he mentions a couple songs that you should go listen to at the end of the podcast. So check him out anywhere that you find music at. And let's welcome today's guest, Alan Bartram. It's my foundation. It's my faith. It's my work ethic. It's my drive. It's everything that I've tried to build for myself that has made me who I am.
I'll do what it takes to make you believe.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've talked to someone that works at Disney World. I've talked to so many. Yeah, it's a bunch of random, things, and then like with you, like my dad talks about you all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Like when he goes to Delfest and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, I always look forward to that, man. I always look forward to hanging with your dad. He's a good dude, man. He really is. I've looked up to him since I was in ninth grade, and he was, he couldn't have been, he was probably still in his 20s. He had to be.
Yeah.
And, teaching algebra on an overhead projector.
Yep. Yeah, now he's teaching virtual kids while having students in the classroom at the same time.
Oh, really? They do that, huh?
I think that's what he's doing. So I was like, I don't know
man,
how you're doing that. Yeah.
That'd be tricky. I've got a third grader.
Okay.
A third grader, and she's been virtual this whole year. And the first couple of weeks was a nightmare, man. Just tech issues and things like that, and just figuring out how to do it. But now we've really got in the groove now, and it's actually working really well. She's got a good virtual teacher, and I'm able to be here with her, pretty much so it's been pretty consistent with me helping her with, cause I've been home a lot. So me helping her with her school has been pretty cool. I mean, there's frustrating moments, but overall I feel like she's actually learning pretty well, and she's got like, a lot of one-on-one, actually, not necessarily with the teacher, but with me, so the teachers, some of the classes are live over video, and then others, the teacher will pre-tape the lesson.
Okay.
And then she'll watch the lesson and then do the assignment. But it's like kind of having a tutor there with you all the time, if need be, it's kind of my role, I guess. So.
Yeah. So how's 2021 been treating you?
Fine so far, man.
So far, so good.
It's not like it's not that much different.
It's really not, right?
It's really not, and but so far it's been good, man. We've just been trucking along. We're as a musician. There's not a whole lot going on. I was one of the bands I play in. We were in the studio for 2 days and working on a record, and that's pretty much been it as far as, musical work. Right. Other than that, I've definitely got plenty of stuff to do around the house here. So,
yeah.
But up until probably, I think our first gigs that we'll be able to do this year are in April. Okay. So it's really not that far off when things are going to hopefully start ramping up. Outdoor shows can happen, things like that. So I'm sure it'll be a slow ramp up until a certain point.
Right. Were you guys like touring or anything before this all happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, the way we operate as a band, technically I'm in two bands. I'm in the McCoury band, and also the Travelin McCourys, which is an offshoot of the McCoury band. And we pretty much just stay busy all through the year. We don't have like certain touring seasons where we're gone for like 2 months and then home for a little bit. We pretty much just, maybe on average 3 to 4 days out of every week, we might be gone playing music and then home for 3 or 4 days. That's an average. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's less.
Mm-hmm.
It varies, but we're usually not gone for like, weeks and weeks on end, which is good. It provides a little more balance at home, which
Right.
can be tricky.
Right.
But yeah, in fact, I think we came home from being gone for like maybe 6 days, 5 or 6 days. And, you were starting to hear about, coronavirus and, there was still a lot. This was like late February, like the last week of February, first week of March or something like that. I forget exactly when, but I remember, hearing about it and thinking, I wonder what this is going to be like. Nobody knew anything yet. And of course, got home and my daughter was on spring break and never went back to school.
Yeah. Dang.
And so, yeah, it was like, well, we'll probably get back to work around, hey, we'll probably be able to do like Del Fest,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we'll be able to do Del Fest for sure.
Right.
Nope.
No.
And that the target just kept getting pushed way back, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been weird, but this past fall, we were able to get out, and do some outdoor shows in Virginia and North Carolina, South Carolina.
Okay.
And I mean, we may have done like 10 shows total,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was it again. So
Yeah.
it was awesome to be home this much.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, that's like, it's a tragic thing, but if I can take something positive from it, I never dreamed I'd get to spend this much time at home with my family. I mean, one time my daughter asked me, this was a couple years ago. She said, "Daddy, have you ever been home for a whole month?" I said,
Oh man.
"Well, not in a long time. Probably not
Yeah.
since you've been born." And she said, "Will you ever, get to be home for that long?" I said, "Probably not, sweetie."
Yeah.
And it just wasn't. That wouldn't be any part of what we thought would be reality.
Right. Yeah.
And that was okay. That's all she's known. It's all. I have 2 daughters. I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Okay.
And that's just what Daddy does. He's gone for a while and he's home for a while. And then when I'm home all day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with them all day. And so I mean, getting to spend that much time with them at these ages that are like they're both. I mean, every age is important, but these really early developmental stages of a child's life is really special. And
Right.
and now I realize how special it is when I've been able to be here for that long consistently, that part has been amazing,
So what did they think about the music that you play?
They like it. I mean, that's not something my wife likes to listen to it. Like I don't care to listen to like our own recordings, like
Right.
stuff that like my wife likes to listen to live shows.
Okay.
I'm like, don't play that. I don't want to hear that,
Yeah.
because I just critique it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't play that. So when I'm around, they don't, I'm like, turn that off. I don't want to hear that.
Because I remember when I was younger, my dad was playing bluegrass. I used to hate it. We all hated it.
Bet, yeah.
And
yeah.
I just couldn't stand it. But now I love it. I even have some in my workout playlist.
Oh, really?
Because
cool.
I like I just like different feels, but it is.
Yeah. It's an acquired taste, especially for younger people, I think.
Yeah.
And it's I think what makes the biggest difference is if you could go see it live.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like seeing bluegrass live or just listening to it is completely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be the difference between I do like this music or I hate that music.
Yeah,
but,
we saw. I don't know if he's bluegrass. I don't know what he is, but we saw Billy Strings.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
That kid is ridiculous.
He's great, isn't he?
So good. So
yeah,
good.
man. He's like he blew up these past 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the biggest thing in bluegrass, probably of all time.
Oh, really?
Up till now. You know what I mean?
Because he's in his
As
20s, isn't he?
What's that?
Is he in his 20s?
Yeah, he's probably 26, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe 26. I mean, as far as a band that's like banjo, guitar, bass, and mandolin,
Right.
4-piece classic bluegrass instrumentation. Obviously, he doesn't always play just like traditional bluegrass songs, but
Right.
I mean, that is that's the template for a traditional bluegrass band: harmony vocals, banjo, mandolin, bass, and guitar.
Right.
I mean, he's, huge as far as like being able to sell tickets, sell records, things like that. I mean, that's like, he's been very successful. He's worked really, really hard for it.
Now,
too.
is bluegrass something that you grew up listening to? Like, how'd you get into like the bluegrass, genre to play that kind of music?
I didn't really grow up listening to it. I was aware of it as a young kid because I had an uncle who had a regional bluegrass band, actually based in Delaware. It was a band called Special Blend.
Okay.
And so, as like maybe a 7-year-old kid, they put out, they self-produced an album. And so I was aware of that. I heard that. I was like, I like that. But I wasn't really into any particular kind of music. My mom and dad sang in church. And so we would listen to like Southern gospel music, or some in the 80s, probably in the 80s, I started getting into country music, like Randy Travis and,
okay. Yeah.
like Clint Black, and like some of the mid 80s to late 80s country artists I like really got into. That wasn't cool at all.
Yeah.
I was like, I like this stuff. Yeah. But of course, MC Hammer was really cool too.
Right. Yeah.
all the other stuff that was on the radio, but I wasn't really allowed to listen to that stuff at home. So
okay,
I would hear that stuff at my buddy's house. I'd hear like, pop music or rock music, away from home. At home, I'd listen to country music or, gospel music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really, wasn't really into bluegrass until I had started working for that uncle who'd had a band. Now, he didn't have the band anymore. He was a business owner in Bear. He had a business called Delaware Lawn and Tree Service. Okay. It was right not far from Red Line.
Mm-hmm.
Right there at, I think right now it's called Mid-State.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You know that spot, that intersection? It's
right at the corner.
Crazy. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
He had that place for years and years. I started working for him there at the garden center. And I had started playing guitar when I was 14, but not any particular style, just whatever I could learn from whoever would show me, like my dad, my uncles, any buddies who played guitar, things I could figure out on my own.
Right.
And so I was just kind of finding my way musically on the guitar. And he, in one of the work trucks, he had like a bootleg tape of a couple bands. There was like one band on each side. And I just started listening to it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It was more current bluegrass for that time,
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of progressive. And I started really digging it. And then I heard, what else really got me going? Oh, I'd heard Alison Krauss on the radio.
Oh, I loved her.
Like, yeah, there was one of her songs, was like getting played on country radio, but it wasn't really country. Right. I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of started digging in from there. And so he started turning me on to more stuff, more bands, different bands. And there was also a local, there was a station out of U of D. They had a show on Saturdays called Fire on the Mountain, I think. And so they would play like old time music and bluegrass music. So I started listening to that. And then the major thing that really got me like hooked on bluegrass was my aunt and uncle who I was working for. They said, if you like this, you need to come to us to the Delaware Valley Bluegrass Festival over in Woodstown, New Jersey, at the Salem County Fairgrounds. I was like, okay. And they said, yeah, come camp. You can just set up a tent. You can see all the bands play. You can pick, you can jam. In the campground. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
And so I went there and spent the weekend, and I got to see like Allison Krauss and Union Station up close.
Wow.
Bob Paisley and the Southern Grass, which was kind of more of a local band, regional band. Just some of these different bands I've been listening to, I got to see them in person. And like I said to you earlier, it's like, man, seeing it in person is different than just listening to it.
Yeah.
It's like 100 times better. And got to meet all kinds of other people my own age that were into it. And, got to, what we call pick, which is kind of it's just an informal jam session in a campground or wherever. It blew my mind just being there that weekend. And that was it, man. I was like, I'm doing this. I didn't know if I would do it professionally. That wasn't even that didn't seem like even a possibility. I wasn't worried about that. I just that's like, I'm doing this for fun, So then I started going to every festival I could get to, on the weekends. And
so you already played instruments by that time?
I played the guitar at that time. Okay. Yeah. And so I was, then I was like, really, okay, well, I know I want to learn, I wanted to get better at this. So I started really focusing on bluegrass.
Okay.
And I met, the next year at the same festival, I met some other dudes that were real close to my age. And we just kind of informally started getting together once in a while to jam. And of course it's like, hey, let's start a band. It's the next natural progression.
Right.
And, so you start a band, and like, right about that time, I think I was about to start college in 98. Yeah, I was starting college in 98. And I moved up to Williamsport, Pennsylvania to go to college. So all of us were based in PA, kind of like South Central, Northeast, and North Central. We were kind of spread out, but we were all in PA. And so 3 of us were in college, and so we're kind of playing. It's kind of a hobby, but we're getting gigs and we're traveling around when we can, especially during the summer. We would do the East Coast, playing festivals, and go out to the Midwest and play festivals. And it was great, man. It was like an amazing learning experience. It was all like DIY, book yourself, get yourself to the gig. This is like back in the, it seems funny to say this. It makes me sound so old, but like when we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have GPS, we used an atlas to get, where we were going. And, it was so cool, man. It was just like, we were living the dream. But even at that time, it was still like, well, when I'm done with college, I'm probably going to, stop doing this and, get a real job and whatnot, kind of settle into my professional career. I was studying horticulture. So I went, my degree was called landscape and nursery technology, which was kind of a overall, of the landscape trade, including like plant production or landscape construction or landscape maintenance, landscape design, all that stuff. It was very like hands-on. It was a great program. It was amazing. And because that was a passion of mine, and that's what I was going to do, is like my trade, is my job. That's what I wanted to do. And, but then, through playing in a band like that, getting to travel around, got to meet so many people. I got to meet a lot of my heroes, and one of which was Kenny Smith, who was a guitar player in a band called the Lonesome River Band at that time. And, he was, and almost all of the like seasoned, experienced, older dudes that we looked up to that were our heroes were very welcoming, which is kind of a thing in bluegrass. It's like everybody knows everybody, for the most part, everybody's very encouraging. And so, Kenny had expressed to me that, if the chance ever came up, he had started a band with his wife. He had left Lonesome River Band. He and his wife, Amanda, had started their own group. and they put out one, or no, two. They put out two albums, and he had at one point he'd said, that it might be a possibility if there was an opportunity for me to play in their band. I was like, really? In my mind, I'm thinking, really? That seems crazy. I mean, I can't imagine, but it was kind of an epiphany of like, so, I mean, I've only ever played in my own band, and that's anybody can play in their own band.
Right.
But for someone else to want you to play in their band, it was like, okay, well, that seems like that would be, incredible. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it would be like, what an opportunity that would be. And it kind of opened my eyes to the reality that, well, maybe I could do this, even for just a little while. Maybe I could, advance in this, in the music business. And so, it turned out that it actually came about. And so I was finishing up college. I had got an offer from Kenny and Amanda to play in their band. And I had a lot of friends that lived in Nashville. And so I was in Williamsport, Pennsylvania for 5 years. And I only lived there because that's where I went to college. I didn't really, of course, when you're college is over, your friends kind of scatter and you're like, well, there's nothing else here for me. Am I going to move back home, near home, or maybe I'll move to Nashville? I've got a cool gig. I've got friends there. Maybe I can pick up some side work as a musician there. And so I just was like, in the audacity of youth, I think you have when you're young and dumb, is like, yeah, let's move to Nashville,
Right. Yeah.
And so I did, and that was in 2003. I moved down here right before Thanksgiving. And actually, one of my bandmates from my first band, he moved down too, and we rented a house together. We split the rent on a house when you could rent a house in Nashville for like really cheap. Yeah. It's probably 3 times that now. I mean, there's no way you could afford it. But it was just like the perfect time to move here, in my experience at that time. And, luckily I had a lot of friends. And so, I was able to pick up some random, fill-in gigs here and there and just meet more people. It just kind of snowballed until, I had an opportunity to fill in, for Mike Bubb, who was the bass player in the Del McCoury band. Mm. And, I met him when I first moved here at the Station Inn. And I made it a point to introduce myself to him. So it was like, I met him at the Station Inn. I saw him. I was like, I need to meet Mike Bubb, Yeah. And so I introduced myself to him, and Mike's always been like a great connector and like mentor of, younger musicians. And so, he had come to see the Kenny and Amanda Smith band play at the Station Inn. And so, I was, I guess, on his radar, and he saw fit to ask me to fill in for him on the Opry with the Del McCoury band, and so I did, and so through that I met the rest of the band, so I was on their radar, and so when Mike left the band, and they were looking for a new bass player, I was someone who would play with them before. Of course, there was other guys trying out for the gig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was still playing with Kenny and Amanda, and but they called me this, hey, can you come, play with us sometime while we're going through this process of looking for a new bass player, basically. And I'm like, yeah. And I was torn about it. I mean, not that I wouldn't want to go fill in, but when, to think about, leaving Kenny and Amanda, who were great friends, and I loved playing with them. It was like I'd only been with them for a year, maybe a year and a half at the time, and so I was like, man, if I get offered this gig, am I going to take it? I mean, for one thing, it's like you're taking the the place of a band member who had been there for like 13 years, a beloved band member who the fans love, is like, you know, geez, I can't fill those shoes. You know, I don't want to be, you know, because I as a fan, I've seen that happen. You know, like somebody new comes into a band, I'm like, I don't know, man. Exactly. I like the other guy better. You know, it's like, and so there was that, you know, and but anyway, I played, and when I could I played with them for probably 2 months off and on. And the process of that was just going on the road and playing gigs. It was like no official, hey, you're coming to try out for this gig, you know, at this rehearsal space. It was like either get on a plane and fly to the gig with them, or get on the bus, go to the gig with them, and then you just go play the show, you know, sink or swim kind of deal.
Right. Yeah.
Which was great because it really forces you into like upping your game. And so, I told him, I said, I let him know that I definitely was interested in the gig, but I also tried to, you know, I didn't bug him about it. I was just like, if they want to hire me, they'll let me know, you know? And so in August of 2005, I got a call and, offered me the job, and I was like, I'll take it, you know? So since 2005, I've been with the McCoury band, and in 2009 or 2010, it's kind of hazy now, we started the Travelin McCourys also. Okay. Which is the, you know, Ronnie and Rob McCoury, Jason Carter, and myself from the McCoury band. And we have a separate band, and we have a guitar player. His name's Cody Kilby. And so we do kind of our own thing, you know. It's totally different music. We don't do the same stuff that we do in the McCoury band, obviously. And we've built up a really great following. We've got a great fan base, which obviously kind of, the fan base is kind of commingle. Obviously, we don't have, you know, it's like people like us, they probably like the McCoury band too, or vice versa. You know? But so, and that's just been, you know, it's been great the past 15 years basically with Del. And awesome. Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe it sometimes, you know. It's like I didn't plan this. I didn't think it was possible. Yeah. But just more opportunity kept presenting itself. Like, okay, I'm going to walk through that door now, you know? Right. So
along that timeline, where did you pick up the bass at?
Oh, yeah, I did switch. That happened about 90. Let's see. That would have been about 98, 99. Okay. When the first band I was in was called Second Edition. And we originally had a bass player. His name was Al Anthony. So there was 5 of us. There was 2 guitar players, me and Justin Carbone. And at a certain point, Al was the oldest. He was married, getting ready to have a kid. And at a certain point, he was like, guys, I don't think I'm going to be able to, you know, like travel as much as you want to travel. I should step away. And so we were like, okay. I was like, well, we can, you know, how about I try playing bass, because the other guy was like way better guitar player than I was. It's like, we don't need 2 guitar players. We do need a bass player. Let me try it. If it doesn't work, we'll find another bass player, but let's see if I can do it and make it work. And so I just kind of jumped into that. It's not that big of a, physically it's a lot different, but musically it's not that different from playing the guitar as far as notes go. So it's not a crazy transition really. So I was able to do that. And, that's when and so from that point on, I was like, I really focused on the bass. Yeah. I still played the guitar as like a hobby, you know, but I wouldn't really gig on the guitar, you know, right. Even now I play a lot of guitar now, especially now since I've been home a lot. I've been playing the guitar a lot the past year. It's been kind of fun to get reacquainted with it and actually improve on it and learn some different things. But yeah.
And then what about singing too? Because I know, I don't think you don't sing that much in McCoury, or you didn't when you started.
No, not in the McCoury. And actually, that kind of reminds me that was another hesitation I had when I was thinking about, okay, what would this mean if I joined this band? Because I've always been a singer. In the Kenny and Amanda Smith band, I didn't have a big lead singing role, but I had a big harmony singing role, which I love. And I knew that I wouldn't have that in the Del McCoury band. But ultimately, you know, that wouldn't have been a good reason not to take that gig.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, being part of the Del McCoury band is afforded me so many opportunities that would not happen if I was not in that band.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten to play with so many different musicians or bands, or gotten to meet so many different people that I would never have gotten to meet not being in that band. So it's definitely it's like whether it's deserved or not, it's like if you're in that band, okay,
Yeah.
you're cool, you're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's it's been an amazing opportunity. You know.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, like, what kind of people, like fans, do you? I don't know. I'm sure you've seen what kind of people are drawn towards country compared to what people are drawn towards bluegrass.
Oh
What's the difference?
Totally. Yeah, there's some crossover, but there's you can, I mean, at least the places we play, like let's say the Del McCoury band fan base is very diverse.
Yeah.
There's old folks who have been into traditional bluegrass for a long time. There's hippie kids. There's like jamgrass fans. There's just regular kind of young families who come with and they bring their kids. And it's all over the board. And the Travelin McCourys fan base isn't that much different from that.
Okay.
Which is cool because you see, it's amazing when someone brings their kids to your show. That's kind of a point of pride for me.
Yeah.
That someone can bring their kids to our show, and they know their kid's not going to hear or see something that they don't want them to see.
Right.
It's really cool when those kids, like you see those kids get older and they still like your band.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So
now is there like a place where you go where you get like the craziest people, like a certain state or anything like that?
Yeah. You mean like a party crowd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Colorado has a great music scene.
Okay.
Like we can go to Colorado and play. Like you could stay in Colorado for a week and play, like Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, and then go into the mountains to like Aspen and Copper Mountain, Beaver Creek, Avon, Telluride, Grand Junction. I mean, you can tour Colorado for like a week or two and have amazing crowds every night.
Wow.
Boulder. I mean, it's an amazing state people love music and they're great crowds. California's awesome. So many places out west are really.
Okay.
But usually like craziest crowds, usually like a late night festival crowd.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like, what is going on in here? Out and one of the biggest eye-opening things for me when I first joined the Del McCoury band was first time we played High Sierra Music Festival in Quincy, California. So it's Northern California. It's inland, it's up near the Sierras. It's just kind of out, it's kind of a rural area. But it was like my first real like hippie fest. And I had never seen anything like it before. I was green, man. And I was walking around that place like whoa, there's some interesting folks here,
Yeah.
you know? It was great. It was great, man.
I know my dad's
And
told me some stories, and I'm just like, I was like, what? Those kind of people listen to that? He's like, yeah. He's like, you'd be
yeah, man.
surprised.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, man.
wild.
Your dad has been like such a supporter of me since I first got into playing music, man. He's always been, you know, really supportive, which has been really cool, you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
And yeah, I always look forward to hanging when I usually don't have that much time, but
Right.
you know, whenever he does come out, I try to get some time for a hang. But yeah, I tell you another thing though, your dad is like, he does not want to bother you. You know, he's
Oh,
afraid
yeah.
he's going to be like, you know, like, no, man, come on, you're fine. You know, come backstage. You know, he's like, no, I'm going to go out here and take some pictures.
Oh, yeah, because he's content being by himself and just taking pictures and just enjoying himself, listening to
Yeah.
music and stuff. So,
Yep.
oh yeah, I mean, I get it from him. I'm the same way,
Yeah.
you know. But so, how's thinking back to when you first started and you first started, like, say, like your first time touring or like traveling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is the difference now where you weren't known, but now you're known? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
different is the touring and traveling?
Well, let's see. Well, like I was saying, when I was in like my own band,
Mm-hmm.
it was, you know, it was so exciting
Yeah.
because you know we were like 20. I was 22. You know, from the time I was about 21 until 20. Let's see, how long did I live there? From 21 to about 27 or 26, let's say. You know, it was like DIY touring. So we started out in like, you know, our personal cars with our maps
Yeah.
and our instruments.
Yeah.
We scrounged up enough money to buy a bus one time, this old, like a 1967 Silver Eagle that someone had started to convert into like a private coach. And one of my bandmates, his name was Eric Troutman. His grandfather was a diesel mechanic and kind of like a jack of all trades. And me and Eric and we the band, you know, got this money together and bought this big 40-foot long motor coach. And luckily we had Eric's pap to help us like figure out he taught us how to drive it. He did so much work to it, fixing it up, getting it road ready. And that thing was cool. It didn't last that long because we had some issues with it, but, and it wasn't a wise decision to buy it in the first place. If we were going to buy something, we should have bought like a 15-passenger van,
Right.
you know, and maybe a trailer. But, you know, we were like, yeah, let's get a bus, you know. But anyway, the things you do when you're young, you know. If only you knew then what you know now, right?
Oh, exactly.
But anyway, it was an adventure, man. It was an adventure, and it was all, you know. I mean, we were playing like little festivals where, you know, you basically had to, you know, you're like calling the promoter to find out when you're playing, or you had to like look at their flyer, their schedule, you know, like, okay, second edition's on at, you know, 10:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon, and then just get there. You know, this is like the time. I don't think any of us had a payphone at first, or a cell phone at first. So it was like, you know,
Yeah.
using payphones to try to get a hold of promoter or get directions. And bluegrass festivals are notorious for being hard to find because they're way off the beaten path.
Yeah.
The sign is just not good, you know. So it was always an adventure. And so then, you know, if you get into, you know, you progress up to like a really pro national band like the McCoury band, basically all I got to do is show up at the bus or show up at the airport,
Yeah.
and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
everything else is, you know, either the bus is going to take you to the gig, or you know, you're going to get to the airport and you're going to fly somewhere and then get in a rental car and they're going to drive you to the gig. So it's, you know, a lot easier. It's all I have to do is show up and play the bass.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because
And
now
then occasionally,
it's like work for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, it's less
yeah,
adventure, but it's easier, and you know what I mean? Like, this is your job.
yeah, it's like the fun part is playing the show, and the work part is like all the travel you have to do, which
Right.
sometimes is just grueling, you know,
Yeah.
especially when you're flying, because and we did that a lot, and we would play like some of the most grueling stuff we would do. Like one night a couple of years ago, Travelin McCourys had a gig in Lutz, Minnesota, which is north of Duluth, way up there, and we played. Like we were there for 2 days. We played a late night show, and then basically wrapped that show like 1:30 in the morning. And then we got in a van, and luckily we had somebody from this gig was driving us like the 2.5 hours down to Minneapolis, and went right to the airport, got on a plane and flew to where did we fly into? Flew to California, and then played a gig that day. Like the day we flew in, played a gig that day, and then, you know, the next day we flew home.
Right.
And so you've got, and sometimes you got a whole tour like that, not necessarily that distance, but you're flying somewhere. So you're getting up early to make a flight. You're flying somewhere. Then you're getting in a rental car and driving another 2 to 3 hours, loading into the gig, playing the gig, loading out, possibly driving a couple hours that night on your way to the next gig, or back to the airport, flying somewhere else. And even as grueling as that can be, it's still not that bad.
Right.
I mean, you definitely get dog tired sometimes, but it's like, you know, it's really not that bad. You really shouldn't complain.
Right.
You know, you're still getting to play music for a living.
Right.
And and then other times you'll get like the cushiest tours are like where you're just on a bus the whole time, and you're traveling overnight. So, like you might leave from Hendersonville, Tennessee at 11 o'clock at night, and you wake up the next morning in the town you're going to play in. So you get up, walk out, go find a place to eat breakfast, see the sights, walk around, you know, maybe Uber somewhere if there's something interesting to see, get back in time for load in and sound check, eat your catered dinner, which it's not necessarily fancy,
right.
You know, but it's free,
Yeah,
you know,
there you go.
And play your show, load out, and the bus leaves about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock that night. You sleep in your bunk all night, wake up in the next town. That's my favorite form of touring. Because I love to be able to wake up somewhere and like go out and explore if there's something to explore, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my favorite kind of touring.
Yeah, sounds good. What was your like mindset, like going back to when you were making that decision to like stop playing with Kenny and Amanda and then go to Del McCoury's? Like, what was going through your mind then? Like, were you scared because you wanted to be loyal, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. It was not an easy decision, and because I loved playing with them. Yeah, you know, I mean, it was like that was I loved it. I wanted to play with them, but I knew that for, you know, as far as like, I mean, it wasn't a lateral move, right, to go to the Del McCoury band. It would be foolish to leave a band you love for like, you know, another band. You're like, yeah, I like this band, but it's not really.
They were similar
in the long run. Yeah. In the long run, it's not really an advancement. And I mean, you know, the chance to play with, a legend, is just you can't pass that up, you know. But and another thing that made it even, well, it didn't really make it tougher, but another connection I had with them was through Kenny and Amanda. I met Amanda's sister, who I started dating. Oh. Right, and so me and Amanda's sister are dating, and we were getting pretty serious, you know. So it was like, you know, it's almost like you're not technically family yet, but we did become family because we ended up getting married.
Okay.
And anyway, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these decisions, a lot of these things you're thinking about. So I was torn, but it was also like, I can't turn this down.
Right.
I can't turn this down. I feel like I would be foolish to turn it down. It's, ultimately it's going to be good for me and my family and eventually my kids and everything to have a gig like this,
So what about,
and so it turned out to be fine. I mean, they were very understanding, and it's, obviously now we're like, they're my brother and sister-in-law.
Right.
Actually, Amanda's here right now with her little girl.
Okay.
Yeah. We only live like 4 miles apart. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So, from like the other guys from second edition, did they still continue like trying to do more?
Yep. For a while. Yeah. The Mike Brubaker, the banjo player, before we wrapped that band up, he'd moved down to Tennessee to play with another band. He moved down here to play with Valerie Smith and Liberty Pike. And so he had moved on. It was only about a year before we kind of, wrapped that band. And we had a friend, her name was Donica Christensen, and she was a banjo player. She played banjo with us for about the year and a half, whatever it was. So Mike had moved on to play with that band. When we did wrap up the band, Donica had she was moving down here to Nashville. Justin Carbone, the guitar player, he got a gig with a band called Greg Cahill and Special Consensus. Okay. And he moved to Nashville too. So he was playing with them. I went with the Kenny and Amanda Smith band. Eric Troutman, he stayed in PA and still played. He still plays a lot. He plays a lot locally. He played with a band called the Likens Valley Bluegrass Boys. Played with a country gentleman tribute band, and also Danny Paisley and Southern Grass for a while. And so he's still heavily involved in music. And everybody's gone on to get married and have kids and, and everything. We still keep in touch. And it's like, it's cool because once you've been in a band with somebody, or once you've traveled the road with somebody, it's buddies for life.
Right.
Whether or not whether or not you always got along or not, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
You're still like, you're tight, man. You're like, you're connected forever. And so once in a while we get on these text threads, together and keep in touch. And once in a while get to see each other, but not as often as I wish we could. But yeah, we're still good buddies. And I think most of us have Mike. Everybody has like a different career now, except for me. I don't think no one else is really doing, aside from like everybody's got like a regular job. Everybody still plays music, but not as like the job.
Right. Right.
They got very, very stable, very stable sources of income.
Right. Yeah. So where are you going to take things now? Are you just going to hang out with these bands and just continue to play until you find your next thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I will play with Del McCoury as long as he'll have me. Yeah. I'm not gonna leave that band. As far as the Travelin McCourys, we're I'm a partner in that band, so that's like kind of my business.
Okay.
And so I won't, that's definitely, and that the Travelin McCourys was started at the suggestion of Del to like have something already going for the eventuality when he won't be playing music anymore. Okay. I mean, he has no intentions of stopping, but he knew that, it would be good. It would be good for us to have something going instead of just play with him, and then, okay, either, he's not able to play anymore for whatever reason. And then it's like, we gotta get a new band rolling, So it was really forward thinking on his part and very generous on his part to encourage us to do that. Because plenty of band leaders wouldn't do that. Like, no, you're playing with me.
Right.
I don't want you doing your own thing. But I mean, he and his wife Jean are like, they're our biggest fans. They've always made me feel like part of the family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's just been an amazing opportunity to get to be a part of that band. And so, that's it. The Del McCoury band still takes precedence with booking and things like that. So usually in normal times, the agents would kind of lay out the Del McCoury band schedule, and get these things laid out, and then they would kind of create the Travelin McCourys schedule in a way that made sense for both bands. And it's been pretty cool. Sometimes it gets logistically difficult because you've got you're doing shows with both bands in different places.
Right.
Now sometimes it works out where you can do a show at the same festival with both bands, which is awesome. It's like that's great.
Yeah.
You can make that work. This will be, we've been building this band for a while. We've put out one recording, which was really successful. We're working on another one now. We just released a single a couple months ago. We'll have another single coming out shortly, and then kind of another one. That's kind of the new record business model, and so of course now we've had to, not reevaluate, but we've just kind of had to just slow down and there was only so much we could do this past year, basically.
Now guys, I don't know how, so where does bluegrass writing come from? You know what I mean? Where do you pull from to write your music? Because you guys write your own music, right?
Some of it, not all of it,
okay.
But some of it. Yeah. I have usually I've been, I'm not a prolific writer. Mm-hmm. I don't churn out a bunch of songs, but
right.
Our first record, I had the three songs that I sang on that record were ones I had co-written. And the inspiration for those songs happened to be, one of them was inspired by a close buddy of mine who was going through a divorce. It kind of just, started out down this period, and it kind of ultimately in the song is it's worse in the song than it was in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
right.
Use some artistic license there. Another one of the songs was just kind of inspired by a ballad of a mythical figure, John Henry. I don't know if you've heard of John Henry, but John Henry was a slave who worked on he was a steel driver. Most people might think that a steel driver is someone who drives railroad spikes that hold the tracks down. That's not really what it was. A steel driver was someone who would drive basically a handheld drill bit into rock for them to then put explosives in, and that's how they would clear tunnels and things like that. And so the ballad of the mythical ballad of John Henry is he could drive a certain depth, into the rock.
Okay.
With it a 9-pound, drilling hammer. And so that that's a very popular folk song. And there was a character in that song whose job was to hold the drill and turn it while someone else hit it.
Yeah.
It was and they were called a shaker. They called them for whatever. I'm not sure why they called them shakers, but the shaker is mentioned in the original ballad. And I was always fascinated by that. I was like, who is that dude?
Yeah.
Because it's good. John Henry's awesome, but the dude that's holding the drill is
right.
That's pretty bad too, man.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that gig's like. It's got to be pretty dangerous. And so I just kind of started digging into what that job was and what that might have been like for the men that did that job. And it was really dangerous, obviously, because somebody's swinging a steel sledgehammer near your hands and arms and head.
As hard as they
breathing,
can.
Yeah, you're breathing rock dust all day. So a lot of them would, and they were slaves, and they were just disposable, basically. And so, they would, if they did survive, they would eventually die from silicosis of the lungs from breathing rock dust. Right. And they, if they did get killed, they would just, they just bury them along the tracks somewhere, and unmarked, whatever. They were just tools, but living human tools. And so I just wanted to kind of turn the Shaker into kind of make him part of the hero story instead of just John Henry, who beat the steam drill. And so that song was inspired by just kind of wanting to kind of create this, elevate the job of the Shaker.
And what's that song? Is it called The Shaker?
It's called The Shaker.
Okay.
And then the other song on that record was like, I knew the guy I wrote it with. I told him, I said, I want to write a fast bluegrass song. It's going to have a jam on the end, and it's just going to kind of be about what we do to get to the gig. So basically, flying on a plane or riding a bus, and just kind of like, just going to be fast. And, so we went into the writing session with that stuff in mind. We came up with the song called Travelin, and it's just kind of a fast barn burner. And on the end of the song, all the soloists get to really kind of turn loose and rock out a little bit. So usually I try to write songs that are either, really mean something to me, or something that I can imagine, or something I've experienced, or something that someone I know has experienced. That's where, for me, it comes from. A lot of traditional bluegrass songs are like lost love, missing mom and dad, missing the old cabin home, on the hill, things like that. And that's cool, but it doesn't inspire me to I want to write a song about that. I usually try to, I'm not always successful. I try to find a different angle, or, I wrote a song, since we've been, off the road. I've tried to write a little more, and I wrote a song with my buddy, Eric Gibson of the Gibson Brothers, who's been like a mentor to me and someone I've looked up to for a long time. And I just had an idea about how a lightning rod works on a barn. It protects the barn basically from burning down, from being hit by lightning. Mm-hmm. It's like it can't protect it from the wind or the rain. Really, you got to have a good roof, right? Because if everything gets wet in the barn, it's going to rot. It's going to fall down. So it's like the lightning rod takes those big hits, and it was like, so we started kind of talking about that, and how you want to be a lightning rod for your kids. Right. You want to protect them from those. You can't protect them from everything, but you want to protect them from those big hits. And then the more we talked about, we're like, really, our the mothers and the wives are really the lightning rod for the whole family. Mm-hmm. And we're like, that's where we should go with that. And so we wrote a song together about kind of celebrating our wives as being a lightning rod for the family, and how they just, can, protect the family through their love, through prayer, through all these things, and how they just, they take those big hits, and that's kind of what mothers and grandmothers and wives do, Yeah. So, things like that is usually what I have interest in writing in. Yeah. I'm not very good at, there's some writers who, and there's hundreds of them in Nashville who can go to the writing office every day and they'll turn out 3 or 4 songs a day.
Yeah.
And, some of them are probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are great. Some dudes can turn out great songs every week,
Right.
I can't, not that any of mine are great, but I at least want to really be into what I'm writing about.
Right.
I don't just want to come up with some lines that rhyme and has a neat melody and doesn't really mean anything to me.
Right. Exactly.
So,
So what kind of advice would you give someone, and we'll wrap it up with this, is just like, what kind of advice would you give someone that, is doing the same kind of thing, starting off playing guitar or playing another instrument and, like finding the music that they love and trying to like make it big, quote unquote,
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Well, it's hard to say. I would say, temper your expectations for one thing.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go for it. But I also would advise anyone to like have a plan B. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Don't be afraid to go all in, but have a plan B. And also and then I think this goes for anything where it's like, whether it's anything in the arts, right? Like whether you want to be a photographer or a painter or an artist or a singer or musician or songwriter, there's a lot of people that go to school for that stuff that never end up doing it.
Right. And
I think I wouldn't discourage someone from going the official, scholastic route. But you've also got to be out there hustling and actually doing that stuff. Like if you're a photographer, you want to be a photographer and you just go to college and learn how to operate a camera, learn how to compose shots, but you're not out there trying to drum up some gigs, like taking, graduation shots or wedding shots, or even if you're doing it for free to get the experience out there, actually practicing your art and getting into a position where you could make a living at it. Same thing goes for music. It's like, if you just, sit in your room practicing, you could be the most amazing musician, and you only play in your bedroom, right? You're not out there playing with other people, meeting other people, networking with other people, getting out there on the scene and waiting for those opportunities. And I think the other thing that'll either get you a job or it'll make you keep your job is being professional. Be on time or be early, have a good attitude, regardless of how crappy your day is going. If you're a sideman in a band, your job is to make the front man sound good. Right. You show up on time, the material, be prepared. You know what I mean? Like, have a good attitude and to just lift everybody. That I've been around some dudes who are really, really good musicians, but they can't hardly like keep track of their own instrument or show up on time or like help set up.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? I mean, if you want to impress somebody, be a good musician, but almost I think a mediocre musician who is very reliable will be more likely to keep a job than the person who's just constantly, you have to babysit them or, take care of them, remind them that they're not showing up on time or whatever, or they have a bad attitude. Work on that part and be, if you can, there's a lot of gigs in music where you're not going to be the star, but you can make a good living, back in the star or whatever, it's just, and man, a good attitude and a good professional work ethic goes a long way. I am not an amazing bass player by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a very, I'm solid. I'm not flashy. I don't have any super special talents on the bass.
But I saw you got like bass player of the year like in 2017 or something.
I did, but that's not. I mean, that's an honor.
Yeah,
but it's also not. It's not like like a scientific.
Right.
Like, yep, you were definitely the best at what you did. I mean, it's a very it's an industry type thing where it's like that was awesome.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm technically the best. There's plenty of bass players who are way better than me. But if I think what's helped me is working on professionalism and having a good work ethic and things like that.
Right.
That goes a long ways, man. It really does. And I would encourage anybody to get out there and hustle. Go. If you want to, find something that sets you apart. If you want to move to Nashville, I mean, there's everybody that that waits your table is probably a songwriter or a singer or a guitar player.
Yeah.
Like within 30-mile radius of this town. I mean, it's stiff competition. And so, work it. You got to work really hard, or you got to be lucky. I mean, I feel like I got super lucky.
Yeah.
I got super lucky. But I also moved here at a time when it was like just perfect timing to be like a bluegrass bass player.
Right.
So I was really blessed, man. And, so yeah, my advice would be hustle.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But
Yeah.
so what's a song for people that don't listen to bluegrass? What's a song that would like kind of turn people's heads to it a little bit by you guys?
Oh, let's see. Del McCoury Band, 1952 Vincent Black Lightning.
Okay.
That's probably his like most requested song, and that's a song they recorded before I was in the band. And it's an awesome song. It was written by Richard Thompson. He's an amazing British songwriter, singer, guitar player. Been around for a long time. Just a great story song. That's like a perennial favorite that the band gets requests for all the time. Almost everybody loves that song,
Yeah.
I tell them to check that out.
What's a song that you do that you have really fun with? That you sing and stuff in?
That I sing?
Yeah.
Probably that Travelin song I was
okay.
telling you about.
Okay.
From our first record, yeah. It's got some good kind of stretched out solos on the end of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a more modern, progressive bluegrass type song. Yeah. They want to check that out. That'd be cool.
All right. I mean, that sounds great, man. And I appreciate you doing this so much, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking, dude.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't remember if we ever met in person.
I don't think so.
I don't think we have, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely
so
wanted. I definitely wanted to go to
bodybuilding, right?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I was. I competed a couple years, and then I'm definitely in like the health and fitness industry. Because now I'm trying to I have an online supplement store, and I'm trying to actually have my own physical store. So working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I have an older stepbrother who he's like, what is he, 50? I think he's 51 now.
Okay.
Who always wanted to be he's always like just been a natural super athlete, regardless of what he did. But he actually he was like, I'm going to do this. You should check him out. His name's John Vickers.
Okay.
He lives in Townsend.
Okay.
But check him out, man. He's insane. He competed in like I don't know anything about it really, but I know he won a couple competitions doing it.
Okay.
But you should check him out. Maybe touch base with him. I don't know how serious he still is about doing it, but he's a beast, man. He's a total
yeah.
beast.
Yeah, I mean, that sport, it's a different animal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially at that age, I'm like, gee, man.
Oh, yeah, if he's still doing it, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's yeah. It's impressive. But like I said, he's always been just a natural super athlete, you know. I was always impressed with how much different stuff your dad was into.
Yeah.
You know, just like Australian rules football and kayaking. And
yeah. I mean, I
what's he
played
into now?
Australian football too.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. He's into hiking now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
I knew that.
Appalachian
I knew
Trail stuff, yeah, he's all into
Yeah.
that. Oh, yeah.
that. So cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it right now that he does. But
Good for him, man. I hope we get to see him before too long when we get back out there.
oh, definitely, and I'm gonna try to go to something with him.
Yeah, man. I hope so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, make sure you try to get out. It's not uncommon for us to get up into like the Philly area and like Baltimore. We don't do once in a while Wilmington, but usually it's more like Philly,
Yeah,
Baltimore. It would be like the closest
Right.
things to y'all.
yeah. I've been to Philly a couple of times to see some different shows and stuff like that. Because I'm more into like the metal and metalcore and
Oh yeah,
screaming and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my main thing. But I like everything else. I have like a wide range of love of music. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Billy can lay down some pretty thrashy metal stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
Billy Strings.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it was awesome talking to you, and I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking, Ben. Hope you have a good rest of the year, bud. And
All right, man.
hope we get to meet in person sometime.
Yeah, man, you too. All right.
All right, dude.